Habari Gani and happy Kwanzaa. I am Kianga Janaki and I am a fiber artist. I use African textiles and handmade papers to create dolls, quilts, and mixed media pieces. So today we are going to create our very own inspiration flower pot that ties into our theme for this year's Kwanzaa of heal, plant, and harvest. So we are going to create a little healing garden like this. We're going to make the flower pot today and we're going to make the flowers. Okay, to do our project today, you are going to need a 4-inch flower pot, a clay pot, preferably a clay pot, because a plastic pot does not adhere, the glue will not adhere to it well. So you want a clay pot. You want 3 fat quarters of fabric. That gives you choices, or you at least need fabric that is large enough for you to cut out your flower petals, which will be, you're going to need an 8 by 8 inch square and a 6 by 6 inch square for your flower petals. And a fat quarter, if you don't know what that is, a fat quarter is a 1/4 yard of fabric that has been cut into a square. All right? And it's approximately 18 inches by 22 inches. So when you're about to make your petals for your flowers that are going to go in your flower pot, you want to fold that in half. And you'll notice, I'll show you here, I'm going to fold it in half and pin it. Okay? And the extra that you see left over, the salvage after you cut out your squares for your flowers, for your flower petals, the salvage is what you're going to use to cover your flower pot. All right? And so if you're going to do, say we're going to do a pot of about 3 flowers, you want at least 9 squares of each size. So you want 9 6 by 6 squares, and you want 9 8 by 8 squares. So that will enable you to make 3 flowers for your flower pot. So you're also going to need, along with your fat quarters, and if you don't have like fat quarters, like I said, you do at least need fabric that's large enough to pin your templates down. Your 8.5 by, your 8 by 8 template or your 6 by 6 template down. You're also going to need some floral wire, and this comes in a pack of about 12, so you can make quite a few flowers. And you can get this at any craft store, that has a floral section, or, Target or stores like that may have a floral section. I was thinking that maybe you could also use Chanel stems. We call these, Chanel stems, they used to be called pipe cleaners back in the day. But I tried them. I twisted 2 together, but they're not strong enough. Once you put it in, once you put the flower on the top of it and put it in the pot, it tends to be wobbly. So you don't want to use those at all. All right. The other thing that you need is 2 cups of black beans. The black beans, you'll see here. I'm going to tilt the camera down a little bit so you can see. The black beans are what we put inside the pot to simulate the dirt or the soil. Okay? You're also going to need some Mod Podge. The Mod Podge is what we'll put on the end after we cover the flower pot, because we're creating the flowers, and we're also going to cover the flower pot with the Ankara, the African fabric. You're also going to need a brush for your Mod Podge, and if you have like a container, a plastic container, or a palette like this little paint palette, then you can put the Mod Podge in the center so you can use that to brush with. You're also going to need a marker, because one of the other things that we'll be doing on our pots is to create an inspiration pot. We're going to have a word of inspiration, and I'll show you an example here. This pot, right, the inspiration word is joy. So all I did was cut out a piece of fabric and I wrote the word joy on it, and that's going to go there in the beginning. And also, let's see, where's the one on here? Oh, patience. Patience is the other option here. And you can also write some of the Kwanzaa principles: Nia, purpose; Kaumba, creativity; Imani, faith; Umoja, unity. You know, whatever you are inspired by to make the inspiration for your pot. You're also going to use, I said, a marker. As I mentioned earlier with the fat quarters, you'll notice some of the fat quarters, or some of the fabric anyway, on the border of the fabric, there's usually a lighter area where the pattern stops, and then you just have the name of the person, the name of the company that made the fabric. So in that clear space, in that white space, or that solid space, you can write the word that you want, the inspiration word. And here I've done love thyself, Nia, and Imani. So these are my choices for my pot today. The other thing that you're going to need is a pair of scissors. Now your scissors don't have to be like fabric scissors or anything like that, but they do need to be sharp enough to cut your fabric, okay? And you're going to need your two templates that I have pinned here. You're going to need a template that's 8 inches by 8 inches and 6 inches by 6 inches. And you're going to pin that down on your fabric. You can also take some masking tape and put it behind the square and press that down onto the fabric instead of using pins, and cut around it. Okay? And that's pretty much it for us to get started. Oh, also in the end, cowrie shells like I have here at the border of the pot, the top of the pot, the rim of the pot, I added some cowrie shells. So if you also want to do that, then you're going to need a handful of cowrie shells, and you're going to need a hot glue gun. So before you get started, if you decide that you want to also do the cowrie shells, you're going to want to plug your hot glue gun up early, as soon as you get started. All right? So I think that's covered everything that you're going to need, so let's get started here. I'm going to bring the camera down so you can see as I work. So I'm moving my fat quarters out of the way because I've already cut my fabric and we're ready to go. So the first thing we're going to do is, one, set our intention for our pot. Like, what is my inspiration going to be? So I decided for this one, it's going to be Imani. So as you can see, I've already cut out written the word Imani, and I'm going to cut it out because I just need it, you know, a large enough to fit around the rim of the pot. So I'm just cutting that out and putting it to the side. Another thing you're going to need to do is in the bottom of the pot, because the clay pot has a hole in the bottom, so you don't want your beans to fall out. Take a little piece of fabric and just put it down in the bottom of your pot like you see I have here. Or you can use paper, or you can use tape. You just want to cover the hole so you don't lose your beans. And you can also use rocks to fill up the flower pot instead of beans. It's your choice. And as I said earlier, when you cut out your fat quarters, Like you see here, you notice the salvage. That's what we're going to be using to cover our pot. All right? So, I've already cut out some. We're going to start with the rim of the pot. And I cut out like 7 pieces of fabric that are about 2 inches wide and 2 inches long to go along the rim. And it's easier, I think, to start with smaller pieces instead of, did I mention you need glue too? Yeah, you need glue. And also, if you don't have Mod Podge, you can use the glue, to cover your pot in the beginning. I'm sorry, to cover your pot at the end where you're supposed to use the Mod Podge. Okay, so the glue is coming out now. Yay. Also, what you might want to get your hands on is some wipes, because after a while of using the glue, your hands are gonna get messy and you're gonna need something to wipe it off. If you don't have handy wipes, then you can use a wet paper towel. So I have about 7 of these 2.5-inch squares, 2-inch squares, and then I have 2 squares that are about, I want to say 3 inches. Let's use our trusty ruler here. Yeah, it's about 5 inches long and 2.5 inches wide. That's going to go around the side of the pot. So you're going to need 2 pieces about the size of the pot. And you know, if you don't have a ruler, just measure it around the pot. So we have the 2. So we have our glue here. I'm going to move the beans to the side. Move everything to the side, out of our way. And you're going to start with your fabric pieces. You're going to put just a little glue along the back. Make sure you can see me. Yes, just a little glue on the back. Let's open it up a little more. A little glue on the back of the fabric. And sometimes it's kind of tricky trying to decide which side is the wrong side with African fabrics, because both sides look pretty strong with the pattern. And you're going to go inside the pot like so. Lay that down and press it up against the rim, and then bring it around to the front. Okay, like so. And you're going to just press it along the edge of the rim, and on the inside you just want to go to the groove, to that groove that you made from the rim. And we're going to keep doing this until we get the whole top of the rim covered. And again, just a little glue, enough to cover the fabric, not too much. You don't want it oozing all out if you don't have to. And you're going to just take that next piece and go right next to the piece you just placed. And if you have to slide it a little bit, that's fine. All right, so moving to the next one. I love Kwanzaa. I love the opportunity to spend time with my family and friends during this time of the year, to connect with our culture, to be reminded of the principles that we should be living by. 365, right? 24/7. All right, so again, and I'm just pushing it in slightly, getting the groove. I'm looking, making sure I kind of get under, tucking it under. Okay, and if it's not completely smooth, it's really okay, because we're going to come back at the end with the Mod Podge to seal everything in. And also, once you cut out all of your squares, you know, you don't have to use all of the same piece of fabric for your rim. You could use, like if you're cutting from 3 different fabrics, then you can make the rim fabric from all 3 of those, right? So instead of cutting 7 that are the exact same, you could cut maybe 2 of one, 3 of another, and 2 of another. Okay, I'm just checking. All right, got a few more pieces to go here. And my hands are starting to get covered with glue a little bit, so I'm about to grab a wipe to wipe my hands off before I do the rest of the pot. Right? It can overlap a little bit. Coming down to that groove and bringing it over. Yep. Yeah. And again, it's okay if it's not perfect. That's not what we're going for. We're just trying to cover our pot, and once we put the Mod on it, that will smooth out everything. And it also, the Mod puts a little bit of a shine on the fabric and helps it to last. Okay. All right, so we're just about done here with the rim. I'm going to add a little more glue to this edge because I can see that it's hanging out a little bit, and I don't want it to hang out. And again, you're going to come back with your fabric around the side of the pot. Okay, so that's all covered. And before I go to the bottom of the pot, I'm going to add my word of inspiration, which is Imani. If you're using a marker to do this, you can also use an ink pen, you know. If you use a marker, try to use a marker that doesn't bleed, meaning when you start to write with it, it doesn't spread. Okay, so there's my Imani in place. Now I'm going to take my 2 pieces and again I'm just going to add some glue to the back. And also you have extra pieces, so if you have any like spots that you might have missed when you were putting the pieces on the rim of the pot, you can always go back and fill that in with the little pieces. You want to kind of get around the border and just a little bit on in the middle. And I had cut this with my pinking shears at the bottom so I'd have that little ridge. And then you're going to lay it. Let me turn it so you can see. My Imani is still drying. So, right, just adjust it. Yep. And then smooth it out. I'm going to just pull it a little more. Smooth it out. Right. All right, so I have one more piece here. And I have some extra little squares, so I see some little spots where I might want to go back, making sure I got the right side. With this fabric, it's easy because this side, the right side has some metallic on it, so I know that. So again, just adding the glue. Okay. All right. So I'm going to turn it over to the other side and lay this down. Press it down. And I cut it so it overlaps a little bit. Yeah. All right. Just pulling it. All right. All right. So the pot is completely covered. I have a little spot here that I think I'm going to go ahead and add some more pieces to. And it looks like I just need some long pieces. So I'm going to go ahead and fill in. I'm going back and checking my work to see if there are any spots that need me to cover. I'm going to take this wipe and get some of this glue off my hands a little bit. Put it back over here because I know I'm going to need it again. I'm going to take my scissors and I'm going to cut these strips that I had left over from the rim and just use them to fill in my little spots, because like I have a little spot right here. One of the other things that I enjoy about Kwanzaa, I've been celebrating Kwanzaa for, oh my goodness, 40 years. My children always celebrated Kwanzaa. You know, I was celebrating Kwanzaa before they were born, so they've always celebrated Kwanzaa. We've always celebrated Kwanzaa. Our family has always celebrated Kwanzaa. And you know, my friends who started celebrating with me, like back in the 70s and 80s, you know, we get a kick out of calling each other each day of Kwanzaa and just saying Habari Gani, which we know is what's the news, and the response is whatever the principle is of that day. You know, and so we try to catch each other. You know, it's fun. It's a nice ritual that we do every year. It's a part of our celebration. And also, when my children were little, you know, they really got a kick out of making gifts, making zawadi, you know, for each other, and adding the zawadi to under our kanara that we exchanged on the last day. So I'm still finishing up. I'm looking, like I said, I'm looking around for little openings, little spots. And you know what? Oh, I have one more little spot here. So, oh, I have it right here. So I'm going to go ahead and use this piece. And then we're going to start on the flowers. Okay. Also, you can also use paper to cover the pot. Like if you have handmade paper or specialty paper, like this, I have this specialty paper that looks like kente print, right? Kente cloth. You can use that to cover the pot as well. Not to use to make the flowers, but if you want to cover your pot. So, all right, so I'm happy with the pot. It's all covered. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go ahead and put the Mod Podge on the pot so that it can start drying while I am working on the flowers. So you want to put some paper down because the Mod Podge can be a little messy. And it's kind of thick too. It's kind of thick. And like I said, you can also use the white glue. So I'm going to pour some in the center of my palette. You know, but not too much because you can always refill it. Now, it's kind of thick in there. Okay. That's probably some from the top. That dried on the top. So I'm going to move that to the side. Wipe my hands again. Again, the wipes they're great to have. Okay, so now I'm going to take the Mod Podge. I'm going to put a little on my brush. So you can see I'm going to put a little on my brush. And then just brush along the fabric that I just put on the outside of my pot. Right? And it looks white when you first put it on, but it dries clear. I'm going to get inside the rim too. But for now, I'm going to just go ahead and go around the pot, covering the pot, covering the whole pot. And also, it acts like the glue, so the spots where the fabric might be loose, just use the Mod Podge and press that down on that, brushing it down on that, right? And it's okay if little sections are a little thicker, because when it dries, it just dries clear, so it doesn't really matter. Let me turn this over this way. Maybe it'll be easier for you to see what I'm doing. Right? And again, you can use the glue to do the same thing. You can pour some glue out into a palette like this or a cup. You just need a brush. I'm smoothing it out. All right. Also getting the rim on the outside. All right. Okay, so I've got the pot covered. Now I'm going to go inside the rim. And again, you know, you can take some wet paper towels to wipe off the extra off your fingers. And when I was going inside the pot, I got a little on the inside of the pot, so I'm going to take my wipe and do that. All right, so now the pot has the Mod Podge on it, and I'm going to put it to the side to dry, because it dries fairly quickly. And now we're going to get started on our flowers. Okay, so I've already cut out my flowers. I'm going to slide my whole tray over here so you can see. So I have three different colors of the 8 by 8 squares, and I have 1, 2, 3, 4 of the 6 by 6 squares that I have laid out here. All right, so I'm going to grab one of the 8 by 8 squares first, and I'm kind of lay it like sort of like a diamond, right? And then I'm going to take a second 8 by 8 square and lay that kind of sideways a little bit so that you can see a point on each side, right? So I'm not laying them flat right on top of each other. I'm going to lay it askewed a little bit so you have like a star. And then I'm going to take one of the smaller pieces and place it in the center. And I think I'm going to do that too. I'm going to line this one up with the first square that I put down. Okay? All right. And I need one strand of the stem wire. That's what it's called, a stem wire. So I'm going to pick up the 3 squares for my flower petal, and I'm grabbing it in the middle, right? And I'm going to start twisting. I'm going to be twisting it from the outside. I'm going to start twisting it. All right? So I'm going to hold it with one hand. Grab it by that. And then I'm going to take the wire. You see the twist that I've created? And then I'm going to take the wire. I'm going to try to go as high up. Trying to make sure you can see me. I'm going to go as high up on the twist as I can, and then start wrapping the wire around. Can you see that? Start wrapping the wire around. So I want to wrap it kind of tight, right? Secure. Once, twice, 3 times, 3.5 times, and come back to the front. All right, and there's my flower. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to start moving the petals around and manipulating it so it really looks like a flower. It really looks like a flower. And you know, you also can, if you don't like the pointed edges, and I'm looking at this now, it's like, that's kind of cool. Let me bring this up a little bit. Yeah, so that's kind of cool, right? That's kind of cool. All right, so I got one flower made. So, let me bring it back down again. We got one flower made. So I'm going to just sit that here. And our pot is drying. So I'm going to grab another 8 by 8 square. Again, making a diamond. Oh, I'm going to try this one. I'm going to do this, another 8 by 8 on top. I'm thinking of, okay, yeah, that's enough for me to do all of them the same. And then I'm going to grab this green one in the center. And so it's like I said, you're making a star, right? You're making a star, and I'm going to need another stem, wire stem, floral wire stem. So I'm going to just sit that here. So we got our one flower here. Sit that here. And I'm picking it up, and I'm kind of grabbing it like right there in the middle, right? And just kind of grabbing it with my hands right? And twisting it. And twisting it. All right, and now I'm gonna take the wire and I'm gonna go as high up as I can. I'm trying to show you. All right, I'll go upside down. Maybe that's better. All right, so I'm gonna go around from the top of my twist, right? And I'm pressing it in and I'm wrapping, 2, 3, 3.5. All right, and now I'm manipulating the fabric, moving it around, getting an idea of how I want my bloom to look. All right. All right. Okay, so there's my second bloom. So we got 2 blooms going here. All right. We're gonna do one more. So we have 3 blooms for our Imani pot. So this one, I'm gonna make it all the same color, right? So I have one 10 by 10. One 8 by 8. You can also do 10 by 10, but I tried that and the blooms were really big and a little awkward for me to manipulate, so I decided to make a smaller because the original pattern that I was using called for a 10 by 10 option, and I was like, yeah, meh. Okay, I'm saying I was gonna use, I'm gonna use the orange in the middle. All right, so we got one square askewed, and then we got the second one turned, and we got the third one kind of lining up with the first one. All right, I'm bringing my hands under the middle. I'm pushing my finger through to start that twist action happening. Bring the fabric up. I'm going to grab, see if I can do it here, and just wrap the wire around at the highest point of my twist. I'm pushing it in. And this wire is strong. You know, it's not wimpy. It's meant to hang in there. Okay. All right, 2, 3.5. And I have my third flower. Now this one, I think I'm gonna go ahead and try, I'm gonna cut it. I'm gonna cut the edges to make them a little rounded. And you can pull it, and again, I like manipulate it, adjust it, pull back that first layer, you know, because you got 3 layers, right? So you can see every flower, see every petal. And I'm gonna take my scissors with this one, and I'm gonna just cut around the pointed edges. I'm gonna cut the pointed edges off and make them all rounded. Okay, and you might want to do this, like I said, you know. Oh, can you see me? All right, cutting it rounded, just rounding. All right, do I have any left? Oh, over here. I could have cut that, made that a little rounder. Yeah. I'm just cutting a little bit of the strings off here. All right. So now I have my 3 flowers. Okay. So we have our 3 flowers. So now our pot is still drying, but I'm going to go ahead and start working with it. So now we have our Imani pot, just about dry. Add the fabric into the pot, back into the pot. I think when I turned it over, it fell out. And then your 2 cups of beans, the black beans. And like I said, you can use black beans. You can also use rocks. You can get those really nice jewel stones at the craft store. All right, and I'm gonna put a little bit of them in there, like just the bottom. And then I'm gonna take my flowers, okay, and I'm gonna bend it, put a little curl in it, in each one of them. And I'm gonna try to make them not all the same height, so when I do the curl. All right, let me sit these down. And one more curl. And then I'm gonna place them in the pot. 1, 2, and 3. Oh, isn't that beautiful? And then I'm gonna add the rest of the beans. All right, and I'm gonna smooth it out. Oh, that's so lovely. That is so lovely. That is so lovely. So you can see your Imani pot. And again, it's still drying, but I'm gonna go ahead and start, I think it's dry enough for me to go ahead and start adding some cowrie shells to it. I like the finishing touch of the cowrie shells because the cowrie, oh, let me see if I can sit it here, then you can see it while I do this. Hey, that's cool. All right, I like that. All right, so now we already have the glue gun heating. Cowrie shells used to be used as money a long time ago on the African continent. Now today, cowrie shells are used as a part of rituals, celebrations. So you're gonna put a little hot glue, uh-oh, can't see me. Put a little hot glue on the open side of the shell and press it up against. Okay, yeah, that's dry enough. So we have the cowrie shell. You can see it. That side is not the side you want to put the glue on. You want to put it on the open side. So you want to get some cowrie shells with the backs cut off, right? And squeeze a little hot glue in there. And I have I have Imani here, so I kind of wanted to put one on either side of the Imani. So there's one there. I appreciate the cowrie shells for staying and not falling off because it's still a little wet, but they seem to be adhering to it. So I'm going to just go all the way around the rim of the pot with the cowrie shells. Oh, they are so beautiful. I can't get over how beautiful the flowers turned out. They are fabulous. So you need, you know, it's not a lot of fabric to make the cowrie shells. I mean, to make the flowers, make the cowrie shells. Okay. Okay, come on, glue. Come on, glue stick. Let me see if I can push it through a little bit. Yeah. All right, here we go. All right. All right. So we got one more here. Okay, let me try again. Yeah, pushing a little glue through there. A little glue. Yeah, I didn't have enough glue on that one piece. I don't want to move and go get another glue stick, but anyway, plus it's still a little wet. But you get the idea, right? There's the pot with your blooms in it. And this is a great gift. You know, this is a cool little Mother's Day gift or I love you gift. I'm thinking about you, to make a bouquet of Ankara inspiration flowers. And you can also have, like I put here, Imani, you could put I love you, love thyself, Kaumba, Nia, all right? So I hope you enjoy creating your inspiration flower pot and flowers made of Ankara fabric. Thank you so much for joining me today. I am again Kianga Janaki of Kianga Art. Let me bring the other pots here too so you can see them. Here's one. This one says joy. Right? And here's another one. And this one says patience. Okay, so we got a bunch of pots here. And again, you can do a full-on collage with your fabrics. You can also, you can stitch around the edges of the fabric if you so choose, if you want to, you know, do some stitching. So, all right. But thank you again for joining me. Again, I'm Kianga Janaki, and my business is Kianga Art. You can find me on Instagram at Kianga Art, Kianga_art, and if you want to see my artwork, I'm at Instagram Kianga Art_gallery, and you can go to my website and you can see my quilts and all the other things that I do. And my website is kiangaart.com. That's KIANGAART.com. Happy Kwanzaa. Namaste. Enjoy your new year. Celebrate all the principles of Kwanzaa 365. All right. Peace out.